It's trade time, bringing you some must-buy, must-sell players heading into Week 7 fantasy football. And we had some breaking news today in the fantasy football landscape. We have a huge trade between the New York Jets to receive Davante Adams for that third-round pick back to the Raiders. And the big part is now the question. Davante Adams reunited with Aaron Rodgers, but what the heck, Caleb, is this going to do for Garrett Wilson? And I right now think Garrett Wilson is a buy, but I'm going to be completely honest. There's a lot of you in the fantasy football place that are playing the sad trombone sound for Garrett Wilson, but I can't keep taking it because I think Garrett Wilson, especially after what we saw this last week, is only going to benefit from Davante Adams. Let's look at this. Yes, the last 2 weeks, 29 fantasy points and 24 fantasy points, which made Garrett Wilson essentially untradeable. He was not buyable based on that overall price. Today is a new day, so I definitely think you need to be going and trying to see what you can do to target Garrett Wilson because yes, 23 targets that he had in week 5 versus Minnesota probably is not going to happen with Davante Adams on the team. Even just yesterday with 10 total targets makes me excited for Garrett Wilson because Allen Lazard is a type of guy that was getting 7 to 8 to 9 targets a game. Now, I think Davante Adams coming in, that's going to hurt Allen Lazard more than it's going to hurt a guy like Garrett Wilson. So yes, maybe the overall ceiling that we thought Garrett Wilson was going to be able to achieve in this offense might be a little capped, but I do think Garrett Wilson is a great buy right now in the landscape. And when we start to look at some trades that are going down for Garrett Wilson, these trades are just now happening right now. We got Brandon Ayuk and Garrett Wilson traded for Breece Hall and Tank Dell. That's an interesting one. You got Xavier Legette, Garrett Wilson traded directly for Pat Freiermuth, Kenneth Walker. We got Garrett Wilson traded for Tyreek Hill. Garrett Wilson for Pat Freiermuth, Aaron Rodgers. We got Garrett Wilson straight up for Devon. Like, I still like a lot of these trades that we're talking about with Garrett Wilson, and I definitely think you need to be considering Garrett Wilson as a great trade target. Listen, Davante Adams, I'm excited to see him reunited with his man, Aaron Rodgers, but I also think that Garrett Wilson is a guy that I'm buying right now, regardless of his current circumstance, because I do like where he is ranked, and also, of course, we might have a little bit of Ohio State bias with that jersey behind me. The next guy that you need to be buying for fantasy football, it's going to be Mr. Mike Evans for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the part that we want to hype and talk about with Mike Evans is the fact that Mike Evans got the Marshawn Lattimore treatment this last week, and it was not kind to him. I definitely had him ranked way too high as my wide receiver 20 in fantasy football this week. Clearly did not return that with overall 5.4 fantasy points per game. He's still the overall wide receiver 14 on the season. But yes, this season, Mike Evans has gotten locked down by both Lattimore and Patrick Surtain. So maybe we need to start playing a little bit more matchup based. But Mike Evans, as much as Chris Godwin has stolen the spotlight as the wide receiver to own the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Evans hasn't been a slouch either. And so not to say that whoever owns Mike Evans is just going to sell him low. Like I said, this video is not a buy low, sell high type video. This is purely just, hey, I want these guys on my team. Think they are great buy opportunities after what has happened to them. But when we start to look at the overall landscape of trades that have happened for Mike Evans, we start to see a few different deals. Mike Evans for Tyrone Tracy and Amari Cooper. Give me the Mike Evans side. We got Mike Evans and Ramondre Stevenson for Nico Collins. Give me the Mike Evans, Ramondre Stevenson side. We got Jonathan Brooks and Mike Evans for Jayden Reed, J.K. Dobbins, Jalen Waddle. Listen, that's a lot to give up the Jayden Reed, J.K. Dobbins side, but I do think I still lean that Mike Evans side. Like Mike Evans and DK Metcalf for Alvin Kamara. Come on, give me that Mike Evans side. So I continue to think Mike Evans is a good buy. I understand the worry that just happened with Mike Evans, but yeah, come on, give me some Mike Evans as my next buy in this video. My next buy is going to be Chase Brown. And Chase Brown, maybe I'm just being a homer, being a Bengals fan, but Chase Brown has looked absolutely explosive. Now, he got 62% of the snaps this week, which was almost double what he had last week where he only had 33% of the snaps, but he only scored 14 fantasy points. So it wasn't the best like explosion that you would want out of a guy like Chase Brown. But the part that you do want to see is the fact that he's kind of been on a roll. 23, 16, 14 fantasy points back to back to back weeks. He's playing in an offense that, as much as we are seeing the Cincinnati Bengals lose and it's kind of getting frustrating as a Bengals fan, this offense is continuing to have to really fight for points because the defense isn't able to stop anybody. So I continue to think Chase Brown is taking over this alpha level running back role for the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll have to see what happens with Zach Moss when he's like more fully healthy. But when we start to look at trades, like trying to get a running back that is going up at this point in the season is always expensive. We got a guy like a Chase Brown, Allen Lazard for Zay Flowers, Khalil Shakir, Chase Brown for Brandon Ayuk, Chase Brown straight up for George Pickens, Chase Brown, Brian Thomas for Bijan Robinson. Like, I do think Chase Brown presents an opportunity that people might not be valuing Chase Brown appropriately. So I definitely want to be going and taking a a shot at a guy like a Chase Brown. We're going to move a little bit faster through these next buys. The next buy is going to be Jayden Reed. And Jayden Reed had a little bit of a down week for the Packers this week. Main reason, 53% a snap share, 6 of 6, 28 yards, 1 total touchdown. So it was really limited to a lot, really close to the line of scrimmage. Only 14 fantasy points. Jayden Reed continues to be a guy. I know he's a top 5 wide receiver. I continue to have him as a top 8 receiver rest of the season. And so when I'm saying buy him, I'm saying if you can get wide receiver 8 less prices, we definitely need to be targeting some Jayden Reed, because this Packers offense, you want to own it. You definitely want a piece of it. So when you're looking at trades, Jayden Reed for Tyreek Hill, give me Jayden Reed. Jahmyr Gibbs traded for Jayden Reed, Jalen Warren, give me the Jayden Reed side. We got Jayden Reed traded straight up for Breece Hall. Like, it's starting to get a little bit ridiculous, but I don't think that's as crazy as people are making it out to be. Go get some Jayden Reed. I definitely think you need to be going and trying to acquire some Jayden Reed. We move on to the next buy that I have in this video. And like I said, these aren't like cheap buys. The next buy is going to be Jalen Hurts. And I think a lot of people, Jalen Hurts this season has kind of flown under the radar in fantasy football because of the Jaden Daniels, because of the Lamar Jackson, also because of the disappointment in Patrick Mahomes. But in this week 6 game coming off the bye, finally has AJ Brown and Devontae Smith back, puts up 21 fantasy points. And now, while that's not the greatest fantasy football day we've ever seen from a guy like Jalen Hurts, it's the second highest scoring game for Jalen Hurts this season. And we've talked about how really, if you do not have Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, how are you going to keep up? Because it does seem like that points per game difference is such a large mark that you're going to have to try to come across, that there are deals happening out there like a Jalen Hurts for a Jared Goff type deal. I can't believe that went down. Someone traded DK Metcalf for Keenan Allen and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts for Geno Smith, J.K. Dobbins. Jalen Hurts for Baker. Like, I want the Jalen Hurts side in so many deals that I would be targeting some Jalen Hurts. Now, we don't like to be negative on the video, but we will be talking through some sell candidates for your fantasy football team. First guy we're going to talk about is going to be Keenan Allen for the Bears. And Keenan Allen kind of had a typical Keenan Allen day where he came out and had a very good snap share, had a very good target share, put up 21 fantasy points in this Jacksonville-London game, 5 targets, and had 2 total touchdowns. Now, the part for me with Keenan Allen is, as much as we love to see the snap share, 5 total targets, he only has had 1 game over double-digit targets this season. Makes me a little bit worried about Keenan Allen and that overall floor. We'd love to see that ceiling, but I do think when you're competing with Rome, when you're competing with DJ Moore, it can be hard to get overall traits for Keenan Allen. We see Keenan Allen for Kyle Pitts. Give me Kyle Pitts. We see Keenan Allen for Rashad White. You probably do lean the Keenan Allen side there, but then someone traded Jackson Smith and Jigba for Jonathan Brooks and Keenan Allen. Like, that's an interesting one. Keenan Allen for David Njoku. So you're like, Caleb, well, we just saw him have a good day. Maybe these are packages you don't want. Like that Keenan Allen for Chuba Hubbard, Rashid Shaheed. Like, if I could get that package, give me the Chuba Hubbard, Rashid Shaheed side. So as we continue to scroll down, Keenan Allen for Mark Andrews, Keenan Allen for Devontae Smith. Like, I want the Devontae Smith side clearly. I just continue to think that Keenan Allen is a sell for your fantasy football team. Definitely need to go consider that. My next sell is going to be Josh Downs. And I don't know if there's anyone in the space that loves Josh Downs as much as I did last year. I just constantly was praying to see the breakout. We started to see some flashes and glimpses with Gardner Minshew, but this season coming back, literally the last 3 games, 22, 15, and 19 fantasy points, which makes me excited for Josh Downs going forward. But all of this success has been with Joe Flacco. We have a worry. We have an Anthony Richardson problem happening for the Indianapolis Colts. And so Josh Downs right now, he's a wide receiver 35. I do have him as a top 20 wide receiver rest of season, but I've seen some insane opinions starting to fly around about Josh Downs, is that somebody traded Josh Downs straight up for CeeDee Lamb. Like, listen, that's crazy. That's crazy. Josh Downs for Bucky Irving. I think at this point in the season, I prefer Bucky Irving as a running back because I can kind of supplant my wide receivers at a few different positions. Yes, we want points per game at the wide receiver position, but I do prefer Bucky Irving there. We got a Travis Etienne, Isaiah Likely traded for Cole Kmet, Josh Downs. Listen, I understand we're seeing Tank Bigsby take more and more of that snap share, but I feel like I do want to sell Josh Downs for that package. Josh Downs and Bijan for Marvin Harrison Jr., Raheem Mostert. Yeah, that's probably one where I do think the buy in the Josh Downs side is good. But there are some dumb trades we can, of course, see. Like they said, this is pulling all the trades, but like a Josh Downs for Amari Cooper, I think I still lean Amari Cooper. Josh Downs for Tyreek Hill, I think I lean that Tyreek Hill side. So if you're able to sell completely high on Josh Downs, I would, especially considering the fact that we don't know what's going to be happening with Anthony Richardson coming down the stretch. And I'm going to provide 2 more sells for you. The next one is going to be Courtland Sutton, and Bo Nix has looked good. I want to say that. I want to give Bo Nix his flowers in fantasy football, but Courtland Sutton, 15 fantasy points this last week, had 6 targets for 4 receptions and 1 total touchdown. Now, Courtland Sutton has had 3 games over 10 fantasy points this year, and he's had 3 games without. He's the wide receiver 37. So as much as he is the number 1 to own in this Broncos offense, it's not something where I'm constantly like, let's go trade for some Courtland Sutton. And so when we start to look at deals that we could potentially be getting for Courtland Sutton, it starts to look pretty interesting. Courtland Sutton, Rico Dowdle, Bijan Robinson for Justin Jefferson. Give me the Justin Jefferson side. Could we go from Courtland Sutton, Khalil Shakir to a guy like a Chris Olave? I do like tearing up off of him that way. Even a deal like a Courtland Sutton to Devin Singletary and Michael Wilson for Christian McCaffrey. Of course, you're going with Christian McCaffrey. Courtland Sutton, DeMario Douglas for Jalen Waddle. That's an interesting one, but I think you got to bank on Jalen Waddle in that package coming back with Tua over the next few weeks. Courtland Sutton for Baker, Courtland Sutton for CJ Stroud, Courtland Sutton, DJ Moore to get into a guy like a DK Metcalf. Oh yeah. I do think it is time to sell some Courtland Sutton. And my last and final sell, it's going to be Kyler Murray. And I don't know why I had such a love for Kyler Murray. I think it was the Konami code level quarterback upside. And we've definitely seen flashes with Kyler Murray coming into this season, but he really hasn't been able to get on track from a fantasy football perspective with his Marvin Harrison Jr. or Trey McBride. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be out with an injury with this concussion, most likely out this week. So I do think we need to start exploring the points per game differential between Kyler Murray and these other quarterbacks. Makes me want to see, can I get and tier up? When we start to take a look at some of these deals for Kyler Murray, we started off and we look, and could we get a tier up? So like, I like when we're looking like at some tiering up quarterback options, we have a Jayden Daniels type trade that I saw earlier. Here we are, Kyler Murray, Xavier Worthy for Jayden Daniels. I would absolutely love to do a deal like that. Could I pair Kyler Murray, Brian Thomas, JSN to go get a guy like a Jamar Chase? Especially if I have like a guy like a Jayden Daniels on the bench or a high-end level quarterback upside. Could I trade Kyler for Tyrone Tracy, Chase Brown? Like you're getting, I do think you could argue that you want Chase Brown, especially as he's going up the board. Kyler Murray, Garrett Wilson for Jayden Daniels. That one's a lot. I probably will hold the Kyler Murray side and sell that there. But like I said, if I could get a little bit lower of a wide receiver option to go get a guy like a Jayden Daniels, absolutely love it. I'm just a little bit worried about Kyler Murray going into the rest of the season. So if you like fantasy football trades, you like these options, hit that like and subscribe button on the way to 4,000 subscribers. Want you here in the community. Check out these 2 videos if you haven't, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.